What's going on, gardeners? Raised garden beds are a wonderful way to grow your vegetables in. And to make it even better, I have for you 6 tips for your raised bed garden. I will show you how to increase the longevity of your raised beds. You will learn how to reduce the work in your raised bed garden. And to round things up, you will see how to make a raised garden bed protection for your plants so they will grow you a ton of vegetables. So before the gardening season starts, let's dig into the main content. With all the benefits that a raised bed has, there's one major drawback. The soil in your raised garden beds will dry out sooner compared to the rest of the garden. So the first thought here would be drip irrigation system. Forget that. There is a better and cheaper solution for your watering problem. So my first gardening tip for raised garden beds would be to build a passive irrigation system with OLAS. This irrigation system is simple to make using just regular non-glazed clay pots filled with water. The clay is porous, so the water will pass through the walls into the soil without a problem, releasing moisture where the plants need the most, at the root system. I used it last year with my tomatoes that are growing under a polytunnel, and the OLAS work fantastically. This is why I'm planning to place them all around my garden. This next tip can literally save your plants. And if you don't follow this tip when building your raised beds, it will be a pain to correct it later on. Did you know that many rodents and other animals that live underground are snacking on your plant's roots and eating up all your precious seeds before they had a chance to germinate? My tip here would be to make some sort of bottom protection for raised garden beds. This could be in a form of placing some chicken wire at the bottom of your raised beds, or by placing wood logs and creating a barrier that the animals can't pass through. If you don't place this barrier before you fill your raised beds, you could find later on that you would love to have one, but emptying the raised beds of all of your soil would be a pain in the ass. So place whatever barrier you can find on hand to prevent rodents and other critters to eat up all of your plants. Just make sure that it's strong enough so they can bite through it. Did you know that from the day that we plant our vegetables to the day that we pick our first fruits, usually in the middle of the summer, we waste the majority of our time weeding and watering our plants? But this tip will eliminate this tedious work almost completely. Third on the list of tips I can give you for your raised garden beds is to mulch them. By mulching your raised beds, you will block the sunlight hitting the soil around your plants, and this will have several effects. By covering the soil with mulch, you will inhibit the weed germination, and the weeds that will sprout, they will be easily seen and removed. Another effect of blocking the sun hitting your soil is to prevent moisture evaporation, thus reducing the watering needed for your plants, especially in the summer heat. And not only that, mulching your raised garden beds will increase the nutrients in your soil, not only because the mulch will decompose over time, but also because by preventing the sun hitting the soil will prevent its decay. And talking about soil, here's another tip. I remember like it was yesterday, the enthusiasm of building my first raised garden beds, going to the store, buying the best material to build them, and then realizing that I don't have much money left, and buying the cheapest soil possible. Stop doing that. Yes, it's nice that the raised bed looks pretty, but my recommendation here is to first spend your money on your soil, and then use whatever is left to buy raised beds. Because having a free raised bed and the best soil in it, it's much better than having the best looking raised bed with some crappy soil in it. Trust me, I tested. If you will have the best soil, your plants will be healthy. And when they're healthy, they will have less disease and will produce you more. But if you have already built your raised beds and filled them with some questionable soil mix, don't buy fertilizers, but instead follow my next tip. Use compost on your raised beds. No, don't mix it in, but just spray it on top, and by doing so, you will kill 2 birds with 1 stone. First, as you probably guessed it will function as a mulch, protecting your soil and adding all the benefits like any other mulch. But on top of that, compost used as mulch will slowly release nutrients into your soil, feeding it. But not only nutrients. Compost has microorganisms, bacteria and worms, and all this combined is much better than some store-bought fertilizers. In the end, compost will greatly increase the overall health of your soil. And the best compost, of course, is homemade compost. So build a compost bin and start composting. The sooner, the better. Last but not least is a tip I learned from another fellow YouTuber, Terry King. I will leave a link to his channel in the top right corner if you want to follow him. This tip is here to increase the longevity of your wooden raised beds. Leave them up the ground. Wooden raised beds will slowly but surely absorb the moisture from your soil and rot. And the bottom part of your raised beds is the first to rot, because there the water will pool the longest. So by lifting the raised beds up the ground using stones or bricks will drastically increase the longevity of them. With my pellet raised beds, as you can see, I just nailed some nails in the bottom corners that will sit on top of a stone, thus lifting the raised bed a good inch or so from the ground. For all of you that sticked around so far, I have a bonus tip. To increase the growing potential of your garden, start growing vertically and build some trellises. There are many designs you can use, from simple poles to elaborate string trellis systems, but the important part is that you lift your plants from the ground, thus increasing the overall growing space of your garden. A tomato plant, if not trellised, will take up around 4 square feet, and melons can take up to 6 square feet if you don't vine them up the ground. But by lifting them up, you can reduce the growing space to a third. I already grow my cucumbers, tomatoes, melons and beans on various trellis systems, and for this year I decided to start growing also my peas and zucchini vertically, because look how much space a zucchini plant can take. I'm sure that if you will follow all of these tips, you will have a better experience in your garden. You will work less and produce more with less stress. And now, if you're wondering how to make the olas from the beginning of this video, or how to build this simple pellet raised bed, you can follow the link that pops on the screen. If you like this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe so you won't miss any other gardening tips and tricks. Happy gardening!